Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this Pi Day, right? 3/14. We're in full force with the conference tournaments in the NCAA today. I understand that St. John's, big win for them. Also, I'm not going to talk about that. That was just a flat out observation. Okay, Lions, they extend. Got a big pickup today. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But also they extend both Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes when they wasn't even up for contract extension there. Eagles continue to do their thing. I mean, just adding star after star after star. Also, Sam Howell was traded today. Washington Commander Sam Howell. The most interesting offseason that this Commander team is totally revamped. I'll go over, talk a little bit about that and more. Stand by. We'll take our first and only break. I'll be back here in 49 seconds. We'll hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. Alrighty then. Okay. This is what I think may be the biggest story of the day. But either way, I'm going to start off with this. Commanders making big moves with new general manager Adam Peters. They got over from San Francisco. John Lynch has got to be restaffing the shed like every single year. He's like Nick Saban in the college game. Saban's constantly replacing offensive, defensive coordinators every year. That could have been his excuse in alone for retirement. But either way, Commanders making big moves with new general manager Adam Peters from San Francisco. Dan Quinn today. They traded Sam Howell to Seattle here. Let me make sure and get these details here. But I tell you what, I can't really believe that they got that much for Sam Howell. They are really got some really good sound for later on, by the way. And, they just got a boatload of picks. They've already been very busy. Okay, here I got this from Pro Football Talk. I want to give them credit for this story here. Commanders trading Sam Howell to the Seahawks. Washington get a third-round pick and a fifth-round pick, while Seattle will receive Sam Howell, their fourth-round pick, and a sixth-round pick. Howell was a fifth-round pick back in 2022. But they got a third coming back. I mean, they basically got more for Sam Howell than New England got for Mac Jones. He started all 17 games, 63% of his passing completions, 21 touchdowns, 21 picks. But he took, 65 sacks there for him. Got off to a great start. I think everybody was, myself included, everybody was real high on Sam Howell after they won semi-meaningless game. Remember, he started at the end of the 22 season. They beat the Cowboys at the very end there that year, and then started last year, obviously, with Eric Bieniemy. Got off to a really good start. had a look what Eric Bieniemy's doing with him. And then as the season went along, he started getting all these sacks, not to mention very Jameis Winston, like 21 touchdowns and 21 interceptions there. And of course, it didn't help the fact that he got 65 sacks. And of course, they're revamping their offensive line. They cut Charles Leno, their left tackle, because of this. But you know something? So that move was made, and going back here, looking at the picks that they have with the Commanders here. Remember, they traded Montez Sweat and got they traded away Montez Sweat and got a second round pick there from the Bears, which turned out to be a great pick. So listen to these picks here. All right. Number 2 overall pick, we know that. 36 overall. I mean, that is really good. 4 picks into the second round. Then 4 picks later, which is the Bears pick. They've got the 40th pick, the 67, 78, and 100. Yes, that is 6 picks in the top 100 there for this Commander team, not to mention the fact that they signed Zach Ertz to a 1-year deal here. They brought in the Dallas Cowboys center, Tyler Baez, 3 years, $30 million. Just to mention a few here, Austin Eckler got the Chargers running back here for 2 years there. Got an offensive guard here, Nick Agretti, 3 years, $16 million. Got Marcus Mariota as a backup there, 1 year, $10 million. What is Mariota? Why is Mariota even getting $10 million? I mean, give him half of that. You know, I think he would be okay, or he should be happy. Signed Bobby Wagner. I'm not in love with that pick. He's a little long in the tooth. But they also brought in Dante Fowler from the Cowboys here. So, you know, again, with all these picks here, I tell you what, that's something else. And the fact that Cliff Kingsbury, I wanted to emphasize, has full autonomy on this offense, full authority to call it the way he wants it coming into the season. All right. Now, I know the odds have changed on mock drafts. We all know now. We know for sure that they're going quarterback. Okay, they've got rid of Howell. They're not going in the season with Marcus Mariota with the 2 pick. Okay, the more I think about it, I know the odds have changed as for Drake May being the favorite to go number 2 overall to this Washington team. But the more I look at it, and the more I think about Cliff Kingsbury, who coached Patrick Mahomes, he's coached Kyler Murray, and the comments that he says, I would like to coach a guy that can move in the pocket. Okay, I want a player. He don't have to run like Lamar or Kyler. This is his words. But he needs to elude the pass rush here and get the ball downfield. And I thought to myself, man, that is Jalen Daniels to the T. That Jalen Daniels, like Kyler Murray, and I went up and looked up Jalen Daniels. He's 6'4". I knew he was taller than Kyler Murray. I didn't know he was that, but Kyler Murray, we don't know if he's 5'9" or 5'10". Maybe the cleats put a little bit, but they're saying he's listed at 6'4". We know that 50+ touchdowns he took. Malik Neighbors, one of those recipient, a lot of those touchdowns. LSU product out of is really high on most draft boards as well. So you're looking at that. You're looking at a guy like an Austin Eckler who can catch the ball out of the backfield. With all those picks, with the moves they've already made, obviously they got a head coach here. Dan Quinn was really taken back by that. I know my friend Mike Richmond, author I had that has wrote numerous books about the Washington Commanders. Wrote about former coach there, George Allen, there with the team here. He wanted offensive-minded head coach, but I noticed that when Kingsbury was hired, who, by the way, he may just be a better offensive coordinator than a head coach. That's what I'm thinking. He's been fired twice, once in college, once in the pros. But he does have good schemes. So this team is going to be really hard. This is the most interesting Commander team, probably the most intrigued, I would use the word, in over 20 years. Last time I was intrigued like this, probably in '99, when they got all when Snyder first took over. They got all those Bruce Smith, Deion Sanders. Well, these guys were past their prime. Deion still had a little bit left in the tank, but Bruce Smith and all those guys, they had a boatload of players, boatload of players there that Snyder brought in. And of course, Snyder turned out to be a disaster. But this team right here and those picks here, and like I said, I just cannot see them going with May. With the speed of a Daniel, that's going to be hard to defend early on. And yeah, I know that Curtis Samuel, by the way, signed with Buffalo. But they still have Terry McLaurin. Just mentioned Zach Ertz, who has got plenty left in the tank there at tight end. But Johan Dotson can get down to the field in a hurry. He could get down the field in a hurry. They're going to need some more help on that offensive line. DJ Humphries is out there, by the way, who was released by Arizona a few days ago. I can see him being a Washington Commander any minute now. Obviously, he's 30 years old. They want to check his health and everything. This is supposed to be a pretty deep tackle draft. They draft early in the second round. They got multiple second-round picks. Maybe they get the tackle in the second round, but we know they're probably going to go Jalen Daniels, somebody like that, with that number 2 pick overall. Well, like I said, the odds are saying, the last market I checked, Drake May's a big favorite. I still think it's going to be Daniels. I think that he fits what they want to do with a Cliff Kingsbury there. Then again, still could be a move made to go up there and get Caleb Williams, who Kingsbury was an assistant with USC last year. So that's still a long shot. I still think Caleb Williams going to the Bears, by the way, who there's just seems to be no market for Fields at this time. But again, this is no exaggeration. Josh Harris, new owner, has done a good job generating interest in the offseason. If I'm a Landover, Maryland, a Washington Commander fan, a Mike Richmond, I'm pretty excited. Matter of fact, I may reach out to Mr. Richmond in the next couple of weeks or so. I'm going to have to work some extra shifts on the weekends. We're going to probably I know there's going to be less shows in the next 2 weeks here. You have to bear with me, folks. This is all part of the sacrifice here. I got to put back some money here to help pay off these taxes, being a contractor on a day job. But within the next 2 or 3 weeks, probably just after the draft, I'm definitely going to reach out, bring Mr. Richmond back on the program if he'd want to come, But anyways, Commanders, really interesting. Now, you asked me, I'll probably ask Carlos New Chavez, who will be on the program tomorrow. Carlos will be. What's the Sam Howell? What is the Sam Howell angle to this? Because a lot of people are interested in Sam Howell. Again, the guy who got off to the great start in 2022 in that semi-meaningless, I say semi because I think they played their starters, the Cowboys did it, but it didn't mean anything. So he has that good game against the Cowboys in the last game of the 22 season. Eric Bieniemy, got off to a good start. And then it's like, and by the way, Ron Rivera's defense, man, they just kept passing touchdown after. I think they led the league in the most passing touchdowns given up, But they started trading away guys like Montez Sweat, and of course, their former number 2, Chase, whatever his name is, Chase Young, former Ohio State product there, traded him off to the 49ers, who hadn't picked up yet. So I'm not sure. Young may be overrated. I don't know. But anyways, going back to Howell, again, 21 touchdowns, 21 picks, most sacked quarterback. Seattle, that tells me maybe they're not going to go quarterback early. They could, but I don't think so. They've got Geno Smith. He's under contract. They picked up his option here. He's going to be on there under McDonald for at least another year. They're going to bring Sam Howell in there. I don't know why they would use that draft capital to trade for Howell if they're going to get a quarterback. I think they're just going to take the best available player early in this particular draft. They may draft a quarterback late, second, third round. If you could get the local native, the Washington Husky product there, Michael Penix. I'll mention Michael Penix for anybody, But if you can get a guy like that, or an Oregon's Bo Nix in the second round, there was a gentleman yesterday that Keith Angle, who's an excellent man, Keith's great, mentioned maybe somebody like him in those later rounds. That's what I'm thinking for Seattle. As far as how, I mean, he's just going to have to make it happen, he's going to have to go out and hey, it'd be crazy. What if he beats out Geno Smith? Don't think that'll happen, but that's why they call it an open competition. Who thought that the rookie Russell Wilson, third-round pick, would beat out a veteran quarterback who just signed with Seattle back in 2010? But that's what happened. So interesting storyline to follow there. Howell's probably just a backup, folks. But we shall see. We shall see if he can get his confidence back after getting sacked that many times. David Carr never did. Former number 1 overall pick, Derek Carr's older brother. But that went on for a few years with the Houston Texans. I mean, ESPN at the time was doing these promos for the Texans back when David Carr was playing with Houston. He was a former number 1 overall pick. And they would show him in the shotgun, and it would show nobody at the offensive line there. They did a little digital thing there, and it showed all the defensive line lined up against him, and there's no center. He's just doing his cadence and all air there. That's how bad it got with David Carr. So it's kind of like that. Let's see if Howell can bounce back. So apparently Seattle sees something in him. They see something in Sam Howell. They Washington wiggles a third-round pick out of them on that, and now they've got 6 picks in the top 100. So kudos to the Commanders. I'm going to be watching the Commanders. I don't care how many games they win. Early on, I'm going to be watching them because I'm just curious to see, especially if they get Jalen Daniels, how this thing is going to look. Okay. Moving right along here. All right. There were other news in the Lions. Listen, the Lions ownership was so excited about the season that they had that they the guys wasn't even up for contract for 3 years or something like that. They went on and extended general manager Brad Holmes and head coach Dan Campbell anyways. Let's go ahead and extend them. This is a press release they put out. Lions announced today that the club has agreed to contract extension to Executive Vice President, General Manager Brad Holmes, head coach Dan Campbell. Both agreed to multi-year extensions, keep them with the team through 2027. And Brad Holmes, they mentioned Brad Holmes here. Listen to some of the players this guy's brought in, just to remind you all of what kind of home runs he has hit. And he definitely needs a lot of this credit. And you can ask Herm Edwards this, folks. If you ain't got the quarterback, if you ain't got the players, mainly the quarterback, kudos to Jared Goff. And bookmark that. That's my only concern about them is Jared Goff, and it's not what you think. But those great speeches don't mean anything. So Brad Holmes deserves a lot of this credit, who was hired on in 2021, be credited to be rebuilding the roster. And you're talking guys, Penei Sewell, big hit here. Alamon St. Brown, 4th round pick. Aiden Hutchinson. I'm going to play a quote from him. Jameis Williams, I know he got off the rough start, got in that gambling issue. Kirby Joseph at defensive back. Jamar Gibbs, who's just killing it last year. He's going to be better this year. That running back out of Alabama. Jack Campbell at linebacker. I don't think he missed a snap. Sam Portia, already one of the better tight ends in the league. Brian Branch, Mr. Ball Hawk, safety out of Alabama. Just to name a few folks. And, of course, orchestrate the big trade there to get Jared Goff and all those picks from the LA Rams. And, of course, Dan Campbell, 3-13-1 first season to 12-5 last year, winning the North. And then, of course, first time since 1991, being in the NFC Championship game like that, probably should have won it. Not to mention the fact that they've added DJ Reader, who I thought maybe Tennessee would get. Defensive tackle, good guy to help out against the run. Added him today. Earlier this week. They've had problems on their back end of their defense. So they turned around and acquired Carlton Davis in a trade with Tampa in exchange for a 3rd-round pick. 3rd-round pick. The Lions also received the 2024 6th round and a 2025 6th-round pick as part of the trade. So got a player and 2 draft picks. And Carlton Davis, pretty good corner. He's listed as a starter there. Carlton Davis. Like I mentioned, right defensive tackle, DJ Ritter, Marcus Davenport, Jack Campbell. I mean, defense is coming together. Carlton Davis, Cameron Sutton there at your corners. And, of course, Kirby Joseph at safety. And, of course, you got Brian Branch there at the other safety. Jared Goff in a contract year. That's my only concern. If he holds out, haven't read or seen anything about that. That could get done. Any minute now. There's no announcement of this, but I'm just telling you, in my opinion, I could see them working out something maybe a little richer than what the 5 years, was it 3 years, 100 million? 3 years, 100 million or something like that for Baker Mayfield. Something a little bit better than that. I don't think Goff is going to break the bank. Goff seems to be bought into this team. Now, Goff seems to be a character guy. And I'm going to play a Dan Campbell quote here in a minute. Everybody's buying in. You know, Ben Johnson came back. He didn't want to take the commander job. Then again, maybe he's not head coaching material. And maybe he's a Josh McDaniels type that just wants to be number 2, which is fine and good for Detroit fans, right? But he's back. Shady's back again. You know, big Detroit Lions fan, Eminem. Only thing is, I would have probably moved off Glenn. I would have probably tried to upgrade my defensive coordinator. Now, they have had some upgrades at defensive personnel. They did lose out on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to the Eagles, who got another big signing today. But that's a different story. Anyways, okay. So they're doing something special. Let me play. Speaking of the devil here, let me play the NFL Network put this out on their social media site. This is from Hard Knocks, Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell talking to the team, hyping me up. Just listen to it. That's why I took down on somebody. Listen up. Dan Campbell taught early on, or I think it's just like his first season with the Detroit Lions. I think this is after like a preseason win or something. Go figure.
There is nothing like winning. And I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter if it's freaking dominoes, it's spades, it's bourrée, it's croquet, it's chess, it's preseason, ass kicking. It does not matter, man. Winning is winning. And it feels good, man. And then we needed to taste that. All right, because that's where we're going. That's what we got to get used to. The best thing we did this game, the best thing we did, we complimented each other. We complimented each other. When we needed offense, we took it all the way down on a 20-play drive and shoved it right down their throat for a touchdown when we needed it. Defense, hold our ground. Hold our ground. Hold our ground. They hit a play, but they're down what? Right? They're down one. They got a decision to make, all right? They're going to go for the win. We got one more chance, defense, and what'd you do? You played the down, and we win the game. That play before that is all for naught. We'll clean that up. It doesn't matter. Because what matters is you made the play when we had to have it to win the game. That's how you win. That's how winners are made. That's how winning teams are made. We got better this week. We got better. Those 2 days and a day, we got better, man. This is an outstanding trip for us. That's well done, man. That's what it's supposed to taste like and feel like. It's good, man. We're going up. We're going places. Stay true to who we are and what we're about. And if you guys do that,
keyword, true to who you are. That's what you hear from players that play for Campbell. You know, a lot of players come back. I'm surprised that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson didn't want to come back. But Howie Roseman and the Eagles, they gave him more money. He went back to Philadelphia. That's what you hear constantly. Hey, the guy's true to himself. Doesn't try to be somebody else. He's not scripted. He's really authentic. You'll be surprised at how many coaches are not authentic. The former coach, Matt Patricia, was not authentic. He tried to be like a lot of former Bill Belichick assistants. Bill Belichick, just be you. Because the players do not like that. It's hard to get guys to run through brick walls when a lot of their contracts guaranteed already. When you're inauthentic like that, listen to one of his best players, Aiden Hutchinson, on the 33rd Team's podcast here, talking about Dan Campbell.
Coach Campbell, you know, he's an aggressive play caller, aggressive decision maker, and I feel like that shows that he has a lot of trust in our guys and what we've got and what we can do. So,
what's that meme you saw on Twitter? Dan Campbell playing blackjack. He has two kings.
Yeah.
He has two kings. He says, "Hit me."
So that's him though, and that's why we all love him though. It's like even people talk about how he goes fourth down a lot, this and that, but I feel like
the fake punt was sick too.
Like the fact that he's just willing to roll the dice and like on our own 30-yard line, like in the first or second quarter. I mean, sometimes it doesn't work and it sucks when it doesn't, but
It sucks when it doesn't.
It makes teams play.
And he says it with a smile on his face because he knows they're leading out on the field. I personally hope that the guy doesn't get crazy with the fourth down thing. I do think if they're in it for years to come, 2 or 3 years from now, and he's still going for it in fourth down and costing them big playoff games, the fans will eventually turn on Campbell because they want to win like anybody. It's so new right now. There were fans crying in the stands when they won the playoff game back in January against the Rams, the first playoff game in over 30 years. I mean, that's a long time. But that being said, you look at the Brad Holmes, what he's done. You look at the fact they've brought in help to stop the run. They've signed another cornerback here. Jared Goff, I think he's not going to hold out, but that is a story to monitor. That's something to monitor over the next few days or whatnot. All that being said, if I had to pick it today in the NFC, I don't see any reason why, and I haven't even looked at their schedule, this will change, that they don't get to the Super Bowl this year. I mean, I know a lot of people's high on Green Bay. People are looking, I'm going to talk about the Eagles here in a minute, looking for this Eagle team to bounce back. And I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. But this team, veteran quarterback, offensive coordinator on the same page. Okay. A lot of their biggest contributors were rookies last year. Sam Laporta got blasted on the scene. Of course, a bunch of injuries can take down anybody, but he talked about hitting early and going in full pads early in that same particular, Dan Campbell, Hard Knocks. He said, I know you guys look at me like I'm crazy. I know it's the first day of camp. We're putting pads on. But they say studies say this reduces injuries if we start hitting early in practice, okay? Instead of just working our way up, building up those calluses early and often. So when the season gets long and everybody else is banged up, we're fresh because we're ready. Well, the last 2 seasons they played really well, particularly last season. But guys like Sam LaPorta, Jack Campbell, the linebacker, Brian Branch, the safety, Jamar Gibbs, the running back, second year, particularly running backs, take a big jump. The game slows down. That top 5 off, I think they were number 2 in the league at one point. Might have been number 1 last year. I had to go back in Pro Football Focus and look, but I want to say they finished pretty close. All that offensive line is intact. I know Green Bay is going to be much better. Everybody's talking about Josh Jacobs, Green Bay. I think they picked up a cornerback or something, or a safety from defensive back, whatever, from the Giants here. Josh Jacobs there from they're going to be good, young talent, hungry. They're going to have their hands full with Detroit. Minnesota, not so much, but I do like the O'Connell, the coach there, and the Bears are going to be the Bears. You know, they're still going to be picking up, but I do think Detroit's going to be, they're not going to take a step back. They're still going to be hungry. Teams that make it to the NFC Championship game, a lot of times they get back to the Super Bowl the next year. Totally different story from teams that make it to, I don't know what it is. I guess because you get on that big stage, you get that close, you get the 2 weeks extra, you get that much more fame, and they're just not quite as driven to get back for teams that get to the Super Bowl and lose. If you win, it just totally works out different. History, so obviously we've seen Kansas City go back-to-back, but teams that lose the Super Bowl, like the Niners, that's why I don't think the Niners are going to get back, haven't made it back to the Super Bowl since the 1994, which is when the salary cap was implemented. Nobody's made it back that's lost the Super Bowl, not named New England, excuse me. New England has made it back. New England's got their own record book for everything, right? But not named New England. But still, we're talking 30 years of data, folks. So I would lean against 49ers not getting back to the Super Bowl. Today, I would pick this Lions team to get to the Super Bowl. Okay. Man. Okay, speaking of stars here. All right, now, Devin White, very fast linebacker for Tampa. All right. And the Eagles signed him today. I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I don't know who does the X-Apps, MGM, social media, you know, but the guy that runs it, or it may be a female, I don't know. They're probably a little bit older. They put out they put out this funny video of Michael Jackson. This is probably going back 20, 25 years. Obviously, Michael Jackson dead since 2009, of him walking through this really fancy, I think it's like an auction or something, Michael Jackson. And he's just saying, I like this, I like this, I like this. And they're just buying stuff. And he's saying, this is Howie Roseman in free agency. You know, they signed Devin White today to a 1-year deal from Tampa, very athletic linebacker. They signed Bryce Huff, a big part of the pass rush from the New York Jets. They still have Hassan Reddick, from what I understand, as of today, as a pass rusher. We know about the big Saquon Barkley pick here. Let me see if I can play this, see how it sounds here. Hold on. This is Michael Jackson years ago. Michael Jackson.
This one.
About midnight.
This one. About this table.
Bought this one. I bought that. These golden chess
set.
Chess set.
Beautiful, the set.
Your chest.
And I bet Michael Jackson, this video, hundreds of thousands of dollars looking at this stuff. You just don't see how they got the money. They figure out how to do it. You know, kudos to Howie Roseman. And of course, ultimately, you know, their owner there, Jeffrey Lorie's got to sign off on all this stuff. So the biggest issue with them is, okay, they've got a new offensive coordinator, the Eagles do. Keelan Moore had a good season with Dallas, little pass happy with Dak. Now, I'm sure with Jeffrey Lurie being a big analytics guy, with Lurie being a big analytics guy, I don't think he's going to get too crazy with that. Looking back to how he's managed Doug Peterson, the owner there. And of course, Moore was a total failure with the Chargers, but I think they just quit on Brandon Staley. I won't hold that against him. So they've got Keelan Moore now as the offensive coordinator, work with Jalen Hurts in that offense. Now, they did lose a Hall of Fame center there, Jason Kelce, and Fletcher Cox, great player on defense, but I don't think Cox is going to be the biggest hit as Jason Kelce is at center. But they got Keelan Moore. They got Vic Fangio now there on that Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator there. So the only issue that I could see other than that would be Nick Sirianni getting into it with one of the players or one of the coaching staff, you know, like a Joe Judge, I've mentioned that before, or Bill O'Brien. That's the only thing I can see really, that, of course, a bunch of injuries aside, holding the Eagles down. Maybe the Eagles are into it in this Super Bowl hunt to get back. But I would still lean Detroit right now because there's full faith in the players and Dan Campbell. Not so much. There were reports, and I've heard this, I think it was on the Colin Cowherd show, that when that guy that was watching, the security guy, he was removed. The security guy that was holding back one of the, I think it was one of the 49er players back in the 49er game last year. And that became a big fuss here. And the league put out a memo about it. So they removed this guy from the sideline. And apparently during practice or something, a couple of players, since this security guy has been removed, I don't know if he's not with the team or what, but I thought he was. They're saying that Sirianni has had players come after him. So that's, you know, that is very Joe Judge. He ended up firing one of his offensive line coaches who almost came, I think it was Colombo, former Dallas Cowboy, come after him. But he was a bit of a hothead. He had some incidents like that. But Sirianni's had 2 or 3 incidents like this. So that needs to be cleaned up. Hopefully Sirianni can if you're an Eagle fan. But if that stuff boils over, of course, we know about A.J. Brown. I've been saying this for 2 years, that I would try to move off A.J. Brown. I think that there's a problem with him. I don't know. He's got a lot of Stephon Diggs in him. He's got a lot of Stephon Diggs in him, and he's going to be a big cap hit here in the next year or so. Okay. Try to get out in front of that, but they're not. They're just going to roll with him. You got Devontae Smith there, Goddard, and everybody else. So a lot of that can be worked out. But overall, hey, they keep bringing in the players. If they don't win, Sirianni's gone. They're going to start over. But the problem is they still owe the Hurts a lot of money. But Lurie and Sirianni, they make fast decisions. They make big decisions, and they don't cry over spilled milk. You know, that's what I do like about them. They don't cry over spilled milk whatsoever. Doug Peterson not working out. Boom, he's done. Carson Wentz, he's turned into a head case. He's lost his confidence. Okay, we'll move him off the Indianapolis somewhere. All right. You know, I mean, they just do not hesitate to move on whatsoever. Moved off both offensive and defensive coordinator. Of course, both of them look horrendous towards the end of the season. You know, they went in a little bit of a tailspin there and looked totally ill-prepared in the Tampa game, in the playoff game last year. Okay. But that being said, they're still making big splashes here in the offseason. Little bit of a side note here. Lakers, you know, I bet the Lakers last night because they had a big win Sunday. Okay. Tonight's Thursday, right? Played last night against the Kings, who I've been on the Kings. I know the Kings match up really well. The Kings come off back-to-back. Lakers had 2 days off, man. 2 days off. And they still couldn't beat the Kings. So I was looking this up. Sabonis, triple-double. That's the big there. 10-0 against Anthony Davis and this Laker team. You know, I tell you what. I tell you that this Kings team, like I said last week, and I want to say they moved all the way up. They've moved all the way up to a 6 seed. They were like an 8 seed at one point. Then they were the 7 seed for most of the season or last several weeks. And now they have moved up into the 6, which means they're not even have to worry about the playing game. They would play. They would play Minnesota. Denver's in the 1 seed after beating Miami last night. Like I've been saying the last 2 weeks here, Denver's going to win this thing again, regardless. You know, consider minus an injury or something crazy like that happen. But if the playoffs started today, the Kings would play Minnesota. Now, I know that Richard Edwards is playing really well right now, but he can't carry them like that. There's no Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know if Towns, they say maybe he's going to come back for the playoffs. Maybe not. When you hear that, it takes a while. Even if he does, it's going to take a minute for him to get in shape. I think the Kings would probably beat them in a 7-game series. Okay. But again, Denver. Now, that being said, going back to Denver, they're only a half game up on OKC. It's not a lock they're going to get that 1 seed. But they're going to be in good shape. OKC, it's a miracle they're there. Again, SGA 25 years. I think he's the oldest player on the team, 25 years old. Chet Holmgren's a second-year player. You got a lot of 22 and 23-year-old. Executive of the year should be Sam Presti. You know, he's the man. I mean, they're all the way up to a 2 seed. They were in playoffs. I think it would have been 3 years, and they start. That's a very in the NBA and NFL. That's on schedule, but the NBA, you get much younger players. It's a little bit more to get, especially in the harder West. That is really impressive. But they're hovering at that 2 seed, and listen to this play-in tournament. It's the best play-in tournament that they could even think of. You couldn't even imagine a play-in tournament like this with this kind of a star power. The 7 seed is, and they've been playing better. They're hearing the criticisms. This Suns team and Kevin Durant and Booker, I think they play tonight, don't they? Yeah, they play Boston tonight. I think Booker's going to get about 25, and I got Jaylen Brown's going to get 25. He's back. But they will play the 10 seed, which is Golden State. So that's Kevin Durant. Who's this other guy here? Whatchamacallit there from that's been hurt all year. That's why I can't remember his name. But you still got Booker. I wish they still had Ayton. Ayton is killing it with Portland, letting him go to waste. They should have never traded away Ayton. If they wouldn't have traded away Ayton, they wouldn't be a 7 seed right now. Okay? But anyways, again, they would play Golden State, and the 9 and 8, the Lakers would play Dallas. So you've got LeBron, AD, Kyrie, and Luka, all that star power. And they're all playing for the 7 and 8 seed. So the loser, or the winner, the winner of these two would be the 7 and 8. So my guess is the Lakers would probably work their way up to the 8 seed, and then they would play Denver and probably get swept again. And I think that the 7 would play the 2. Now, that would be interesting. The Suns would end up playing OKC, the old versus the young. That Bradley Beal, so I was thinking about. He's got all this stuff on his head, look like Richard Hamilton. He's got all these masks and stuff. He's hurt all the time, Should have never got rid of Ayton and got Nurkic and all that. That was ridiculous. Bad move. Bad move. Very bad move. Like a boo from the Seinfeld. Remember? Very, very bad. Very, very bad. Talking to Jerry, watching the replay of that on Netflix. It's just what a great show, man. I tell you. But anyways, the West is going to be really interesting. Getting interesting by the day. Good to see Zion Williamson back healthy again. Notice he had a good game the other night. They're a 5 seed, the 4 and a 5. So you're going to see as much criticism as I've had for the NBA in the past, and they've had, the ratings, they have been way down for the All-Star game. I still think that they should have colleges. It should be 3 years out of high school. 20, really just make the age 21 should be the minimum age, but that's a different story. But as far as the actual competition in the playoffs, particularly in the West, this is very good. This is very good. I would love to see Ja Morant back. Now Memphis is 13, 23 and 44. They're going to be in the lottery pick somewhere there. In the top 5, hopefully they can upgrade a player and get him some help and get squared away. He's got injured. Of course, he's had his off the court issues as well. But it's good to see a guy like Zion back. But I mean, you've got a healthy Kawhi Leonard. Knock on wood, he stays that way. Him and Paul George with that Clipper team. You got a young and upcoming Minnesota. Same thing with OKC. Denver of all teams, the best team. Who would have thought, right? Denver of all teams, the star power in with Phoenix. I mean, we know about the Lakers and Golden State. And, of course, the rising Kings with Sabonis playing great basketball right now coming up. And maybe, they are they're only one game out of the 5 seed and only 3 games out of the 4 seed. If you're a Kings fan, which I kind of like to see Kings get home court throughout the first round, really good coach there, Mike Brown. So, anyways, just a little touch on the NBA. Again, I know we got conference tournaments going on now. Kudos to Rick Pitino, by the way. Remember that really hard criticism he gave of the team a few weeks ago about not being too slow and everything, and then he had to come back and walk it back and said, I should have never called nobody by name. And, they went on a little bit of a winning streak. They won today, beat Seton Hall. Talked about that yesterday with Keith Engel here. So they're going to move on to the next. We'll be playing tomorrow in the Big Ten. What is it? Is it the Big Ten? I think it's the Big East tournament here. I'm curious who they're going to play. I'll let you all know. St. John's basketball next game. Yeah, 191-72 next game. Let's see who they playing next. Oh, wow. We'll be playing UConn in the Big East tournament tomorrow at 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern time. So speaking of that, Eastern everything, we'll have Carlos Mad New Yorker Chavez. I want to see how ticked off he is at the Giants, and he's got to love Sam Howell. I got to get his opinion on the great Sam Howell going out to Seattle. And of course, Tennessee's had a big week. The Commanders had a big week. We'll talk about all that and more tomorrow. If you like the show, please share the show. Again, I'll be back tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central here on Sports Scope. Have a good night, everybody.